The Mercury Retrograde in Cancer, beginning on July 18th and lasting until August 11th, 2025, is set to be one of the most emotionally nuanced and mentally reflective retrograde cycles of the year. Taking place entirely within the watery, nurturing, and sentimental sign of Cancer, this transit won't just affect our logical processes, it will challenge how we emotionally interpret, communicate, and process our daily realities. It is essential to note that these interpretations are based on Sidereal or Vedic Astrology, which accounts for the approximately 24-degree difference with the tropical zodiac. Mercury, the planet of intellect, messaging, travel, and analysis, is generally known for its precision and clarity. When it moves through Cancer, a sign ruled by the intuitive moon, it becomes heavily influenced by memory, emotional sensitivity, and instinctive reactions. When Mercury turns retrograde in such a sign, the result is an extended phase of emotional confusion, introspection, and the need to reassess how we process and convey what we feel versus what we think. Mercury typically spends about 20 days in a sign, but during retrograde cycles, which occur roughly 3 to 4 times a year, the planet slows down significantly, giving us nearly 3 weeks of intense internal reflection. In this particular retrograde, Mercury will appear to move backward within Cancer, revisiting degrees it previously passed, which in symbolic terms indicates that our minds will be pulled backward into emotional territory we thought we had left behind. Communication becomes less about logic and more about emotion, often leading to misunderstandings not because of what is said, but how it is perceived. People may misinterpret neutral statements as personal criticisms. Simple conversations could spiral into emotional overreactions. This period demands not just clearer communication, but greater emotional intelligence and patience. Cancer is a cardinal water sign that governs the past, childhood, the home, roots, and emotional safety. As Mercury retraces its steps through this sign, many individuals will find themselves reconnecting with memories, family matters, unresolved domestic issues, or even revisiting long-buried emotional patterns. This can manifest in a variety of ways, such as sudden thoughts of people from the past, dreams, or reflective moods that prompt journaling, therapy, or private soul-searching. Old letters, photos, or past messages may resurface, offering a chance to reassess how far we've come emotionally, or how much healing remains. This retrograde, then, isn't just about external miscommunications. It's about cleansing and reorganizing the emotional clutter within the mind, with the goal of finding peace and mental clarity. Technologically, as with every Mercury retrograde, there may be delays in travel, glitches in communication devices, contractual confusion, or scheduling mishaps. Given that this retrograde happens in Cancer, the technological issues may strike closer to home, perhaps affecting family logistics, household appliances, or emotionally charged messages sent too soon or without enough reflection. Think twice before sending an emotional email or sharing something vulnerable without feeling grounded. What's said in haste under this influence might not land the way you expect it to. Another important layer to this retrograde is Mercury's conjunction with the Sun in Cancer, which will occur during this time. This close conjunction marks a key turning point in the retrograde, often called the inferior conjunction, which can offer a flash of insight, a sudden realization, or a powerful clarity within the fog of confusion. This moment is best used for private clarity rather than external action, as the full integration of the insight may not arrive until Mercury turns direct. It's also a symbolic time when Mercury is reborn in the heart of the Sun, illuminating the hidden patterns we've been unconsciously living under. Adding to the intensity of this retrograde season is the simultaneous retrograde of Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter's transit through Gemini, and the continued Rahu-Ketu transit through Aquarius and Leo respectively. Saturn retrograde in Pisces is reshaping long-term emotional boundaries and personal responsibility, especially around spiritual integrity and emotional maturity. Pisces and Cancer are both water signs, and with Mercury retrograding in one and Saturn retrograding in the other, this period will carry a deeply introspective, emotionally heavy tone, where internal accountability and emotional honesty are not optional, they're necessary. The Jupiter-Mercury interaction, as Jupiter transits in the Mercury's sign, will highlight the need to balance rational thought with heart-centered understanding, especially as Jupiter in Gemini emphasizes logic and Mercury in Cancer tugs us toward emotional truth. Meanwhile, Mars transit through Leo, initially conjunct Ketu, adds a layer of intensity to emotional outbursts, suppressed anger, and impulsive behavior, especially in relationships or creative endeavors. Venus, too, is shifting signs during this time, moving from Taurus into Gemini, eventually joining Jupiter. While this may bring mental stimulation in love and relationships, it also risks overthinking, or even idealizing emotional connections without anchoring them in reality. The house placement of Cancer in one's birth chart becomes extremely important during this retrograde. That house is where Mercury is slowing down your thinking and asking you to reevaluate how you communicate, express emotions, and connect with others. It will also be the area of life where emotion and reason may clash, leading to temporary confusion, but eventual clarity, if you stay with the discomfort and remain introspective. This Mercury retrograde is not one to charge through. Instead, it's a time to slow down emotionally, observe patterns in communication, and reflect on whether your words are truly aligned with your feelings. For those who are willing to go deeper, this is a profound opportunity to rewrite emotional narratives, reconnect with past emotional experiences with more wisdom, and speak from a space that is both vulnerable and wise. Those engaged in counseling, healing, or creative writing may find this period especially fertile, if they are willing to pause, reflect, and dig deeper than surface-level reactions. As Mercury turns direct on August 11th, the emotional fog will begin to lift, but the lessons of the retrograde will continue to unfold as Mercury completes its shadow phase over the following weeks. Take this time to become emotionally literate, to listen without reacting, and to feel without rushing into explanations. Cancer teaches that emotional safety is not found in avoidance or perfection, but in honest emotional presence. This Mercury retrograde, then, is not a glitch, it is a message. And it's asking you to feel before you speak. To assess the impact of this transit, it's crucial to consider your ascendant and moon signs. The ascendant sign provides insights into the timing of life events, while the moon sign reveals how you'll emotionally respond to these changes. Consider the position of your current Maha-Dasha lord in your birth chart, as it can shed light on how these transits will influence the recurring themes of your current Dasha period. A more precise understanding of the impact of this transit can be gained by examining Mercury's Ashtaka Varga score in Cancer. Keep in mind that the effects of this transit will differ from person to person, contingent on Mercury's interaction with the planets in their individual birth charts, or its transit through the zodiac. It's also worth noting that individuals currently experiencing the influence of Mercury Dasha may feel the effects of this transit more intensely. It's important to remember that the effects of this transit will vary for each person. To understand how this transit may affect you based on your zodiac sign and the houses it transits, let's delve into those specifics. For Aries, Mercury's retrograde in Cancer will be a time of intense introspection, emotional reassessment, and domestic reevaluation. Since Mercury governs the third house of communication, efforts, courage, siblings, skills, media, short travels, and the sixth house of debts, enemies, health issues, service, and daily routine, its retrograde influence will directly impact these domains, particularly in connection with your sense of inner security, home life, and emotional foundations. The fourth house relates to one's mother, home environment, domestic peace, real estate, emotional comfort, happiness, and one's connection with roots, traditions, and even formal education. When Mercury, the planet of logic, analysis, speech, and information, slows down and begins to move retrograde in this sensitive moon-ruled sign, your focus may turn inward, toward emotional matters that have been long buried or overlooked. You may find yourself reflecting deeply on past conversations with family, especially with the mother, or needing to address unresolved issues related to your domestic life. As the third house lord, Mercury represents how you communicate, take initiative, assert your willpower, and engage with your immediate environment. You may feel a temporary slowdown in your motivation to pursue new endeavors, or you may find that ideas and plans you had enthusiastically set into motion earlier now demand review, revision, or complete rethinking. Siblings or close peers may play a central role during this period, either by surfacing old conversations or needing your help to resolve current misunderstandings. The chance of communication gaps or delays in correspondence with such individuals is quite high during this retrograde. Mercury's rulership over your sixth house links this retrograde to issues related to daily work routines, disputes, employment dynamics, physical health, and legal or bureaucratic matters. You may feel pressure to revisit your current job situation, or you might notice that workplace communication becomes strained, inefficient, or emotionally charged. There could be misunderstandings between you and colleagues, delays in emails or official work, or technical setbacks that frustrate your workflow. Health-wise, this could be a time when mental stress surfaces, especially those tied to anxiety or repressed emotional discomfort. The fourth house, being the house of emotions and Mercury ruling your sixth, also suggests that your mental health should be given priority, as emotional disturbances could now begin to affect your physical well-being. The home environment becomes an especially important area of focus. If you've been avoiding important discussions with family members, or have left unresolved tensions lingering beneath the surface, these may now rise to the forefront. Mercury retrograde will stir the emotional pot, asking you to engage in honest, heartfelt communication, yet with caution, as the potential for misinterpretation and emotional reactions is high. This is not the best time to make firm decisions around property, real estate, or home renovations unless absolutely necessary. Any such plans should be double-checked for errors, unclear clauses, or vague verbal agreements. Delays related to real estate dealings or home shifts may occur, and you might have to go back and forth with agents, paperwork, or contractors to get things finalized. From an emotional standpoint, you may feel mentally scattered or overburdened, as Mercury in the 4th can challenge your peace of mind. It's a great time to step back and reconnect with the emotional needs you've neglected, especially those related to your childhood memories, relationship with your mother, or any emotional conditioning that still influences your current choices. For Aries individuals, who are naturally action-oriented and forward-moving, this retrograde demands a pause. You may feel like you're not progressing externally, but the real work now lies within. Journaling, revisiting old letters or photos, meditating in solitude, or simply spending time at home with an intention to reconnect can help soothe the restless energy. Mercury's conjunction with the Sun in Cancer will amplify your awareness around these themes, possibly through heated or revealing conversations. While the Sun may bring light to areas of confusion, its proximity to Mercury can also lead to ego clashes, verbal impatience, or overly rational thinking in emotional matters, which may not be well received. You'll need to strike a balance between logic and empathy, especially in family or home-based discussions. Saturn retrograde in Pisces, in your 12th house, adds a karmic undertone to this retrograde. It enhances the urge to retreat, reflect, and release burdens, especially those tied to emotional suffering or subconscious limitations. If you've been dealing with suppressed fears or guilt connected to your past or private life, this combination may prompt you to acknowledge and process them more consciously. Mercury's retrograde in the 4th, while Saturn retrogrades in the 12th, essentially forces you to confront your emotional baggage in order to find future stability. Meanwhile, Jupiter transiting Gemini, your 3rd house, may offer support by providing opportunities to learn, express, and grow through communication and skill building. With Mercury, the ruler of the 3rd house, retrograde during this time, it's wiser to complete or revise past learning projects rather than initiate something entirely new. Use this time to relearn, reread, or re-strategize, particularly if you're involved in writing, digital media, or teaching. Also, Mars conjunct Ketu in Leo, your 5th house, intensifies emotional volatility. It brings impulsiveness and detachment into creative expression and romantic connections. This could aggravate the emotional themes of Mercury's retrograde, making it harder to communicate feelings clearly or handle romantic misunderstandings with grace. You might also feel detached from your creative passions or experience blocks in expressing yourself freely. By the time Venus enters Gemini on July 26th, forming a conjunction with Jupiter, there may be a slight lift in your spirits and more harmonious interactions with siblings and neighbors. With Mercury still retrograde, you'll need to practice patience and avoid overpromising or reacting impulsively to emotional triggers. When Mercury turns direct on August 11th, some clarity will begin to emerge, especially in areas concerning family communication, home decisions, and emotional processing. Still, it's advisable to give yourself time until later in August before making any long-term commitments or changes. Overall, this Mercury retrograde is a time to heal emotionally, reconnect with home and heart, and approach communication with sensitivity and care. It reminds Aries individuals, who often rush into external action, that inner work is just as vital and sometimes more impactful. Reflect on how you speak to yourself internally, how you express love or concern to family, and how your emotional world influences your everyday choices. For Taurus, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer will occur in the 3rd house, the domain of communication, personal efforts, courage, travel, networking, and sibling relationships. As Mercury governs your 2nd house, speech, wealth, family, values, and 5th house, creativity, intelligence, love, children, this retrograde carries significant influence over your thoughts, expression, financial decisions, creative output, romantic inclinations, and your sense of self-worth. The involvement of Mercury in the 3rd house, particularly while transiting the highly emotional and sensitive sign of Cancer, suggests a time of deep introspection, rethinking of personal ideas, and cautious communication. The 3rd house represents your mental courage, communication style, writing abilities, media involvement, marketing strategies, as well as your relationship with siblings and neighbors. When Mercury, planet of intellect and expression, enters retrograde motion in this space, you may begin to re-examine how effectively you're voicing your opinions, and whether your thoughts are being received the way you intend. Since Cancer is ruled by the moon and associated with emotional intelligence, mood fluctuations, intuition, and sensitivity, Mercury's rational nature feels slightly out of place here. This mismatch in energies can lead to misinterpretations, overly emotional responses, or feeling mentally overwhelmed when trying to convey even simple ideas. You may often find yourself second-guessing your words, overthinking trivial conversations, or rehashing past interactions with others, especially those involving your close circle. As Mercury also governs your second house, which relates to speech, finances, food habits, and family traditions, the themes of financial planning and verbal expression are now tied closely with your personal communications and emotional reactions. During this retrograde, money matters may become a bit tangled, either due to miscalculations, forgotten dues, delayed payments, or a need to restructure your spending habits. It's not the ideal time to make new investments or make large financial commitments. Instead, it's better to review and revise existing financial strategies or correct any errors in budgeting or saving. Since the second house also represents self-worth, you might notice internal dialogues that question your value, voice, or creative potential, especially if you've faced criticism recently or have been comparing yourself with others. Mercury also rules your fifth house, the area of intelligence, creativity, romantic expression, and children. When Mercury is retrograde, especially in the third house, you may experience a creative block or difficulty articulating your artistic ideas or romantic feelings. If you're involved in writing, performing arts, public speaking, or teaching, this phase may demand revisions of past work or reworking of earlier ideas rather than launching new projects. If you're in a romantic relationship, misunderstandings due to tone or timing could arise, and it's essential to listen with empathy and avoid impulsive responses, especially as emotions run high. If you're a parent, communication with children may become confusing or require repeated clarification, perhaps due to generational differences or their own emotional fluctuations. Another major influence during this period is the transit of Venus through Taurus, your first house. Venus, your chart ruler, moving through your first house adds an aura of grace, attractiveness, and charm, which can soften the otherwise mentally scattered energy of Mercury retrograde. You may still be perceived favorably by others, and Venus's presence can help you resolve misunderstandings more easily, especially if you remain grounded in kindness and diplomatic expression. This is a wonderful time to focus on self-care, refining your appearance, reconnecting with your sense of beauty and inner peace, and letting that Venusian calm guide you through the mental turbulence of Mercury retrograde. The conjunction of Mercury with the Sun in Cancer until mid-August also suggests heightened awareness around your thought patterns and communication habits, though it can make you prone to speaking too quickly, being misunderstood, or overlooking details in emotionally charged conversations. This conjunction often acts like a spotlight that brings buried mental patterns into conscious focus, particularly around the third house themes of communication and courage. Be cautious not to let ego interfere in dialogues, especially with siblings, peers, or collaborators. Saturn retrograde in Pisces, your 11th house, continues to apply karmic pressure around your social networks, long-term ambitions, and community roles. If you've been feeling disconnected from your larger circle or unsure about your broader goals, this Mercury retrograde will heighten that sense of internal reflection. You may revisit old ideas or unfinished group projects, possibly rekindling conversations or collaborations that had been left incomplete in the past. Since the 11th and 3rd houses both relate to networking and connections, don't be surprised if people from your past reappear, prompting a reevaluation of your current affiliations and how aligned they are with your true values. Simultaneously, Mars and Ketu in Leo, your 4th house, create a backdrop of volatility in the home space. This conjunction can cause disruptions in the family environment or sudden arguments, especially when combined with Mercury's retrograde influence. If you live with siblings or close family, be mindful of emotional outbursts or tension over household matters, and try to stay clear of impulsive decision-making related to real estate or relocation. Mars will move into Virgo on July 28th, which may stabilize matters slightly, but the weeks leading up to that could feel internally agitating. Toward the end of July, Venus will move into Gemini, your 2nd house, and form a conjunction with Jupiter, which is transiting Gemini. This planetary combination is generally positive and can bring financial luck, eloquent expression, and creative insights. With Mercury retrograde still active, the potential for overpromising, emotional spending, or misjudging value, both in people and in material things, remains. Wait until after Mercury turns direct on August 11th, before acting on any newfound ideas that emerge during this time. As Mercury turns direct, you will begin to feel more mentally clear, emotionally composed, and confident in your ability to articulate your thoughts again. The fog that clouded your thinking will lift, so give yourself space to slowly implement what you've learned during the retrograde period. Conversations that stalled may pick up, creative blocks may dissolve, and previously confusing financial matters will become easier to handle. Overall, this Mercury retrograde in Cancer offers Taurus individuals a valuable opportunity to refine their thinking, reconnect with emotional truth, and align their speech with their values. It encourages a retreat into thoughtful reflection about what you truly want to say, how you wish to express yourself creatively, and which relationships or commitments still serve your long-term emotional well-being. For Gemini, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer will take place in your second house, the area of finances, speech, family ties, accumulated wealth, food habits, and core values. This retrograde period holds profound significance for you, not only because the second house is an important pillar of your personal and material stability, but also because Mercury is your ruling planet. When the first house lord retrogrades, it touches nearly every facet of life: identity, thoughts, expression, health, behavior, and overall direction. This retrograde is especially potent because Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, and wisdom, is currently transiting your sign, offering great potential for development, but only after you address the misalignments Mercury will now expose. The second house in astrology symbolizes your material resources, family traditions, speech, moral values, and your sense of security through possessions and stability. With Mercury retrograde here in Cancer, a sign ruled by the emotionally sensitive moon, your approach to all these areas may become heavily colored by past experiences, emotional responses, and subjective interpretations. You may find yourself revisiting old conversations with family members, reassessing financial decisions you made in the past, or even reflecting on how your upbringing has influenced your current priorities and communication style. There is likely to be a mental loop of introspection around whether the life you're building actually supports your long-term emotional needs. Mercury governs both your first house, your personality, body, self-expression, mental orientation, and your fourth house, home, mother, comfort, peace of mind, emotional grounding. As such, when Mercury slows down in the second house, there is a direct connection between your identity, emotional roots, and your material world. You may experience moments of self-doubt or confusion regarding your worth or value, not just in financial terms but in emotional and intellectual terms as well. This could be triggered by family interactions, financial stress, or even your internal dialogue. You may begin to question if your current career or income reflects your skills and effort, or whether your voice is being heard and respected within your household or professional environment. During this period, communication becomes delicate, especially in matters involving money, family decisions, and emotional boundaries. Mercury retrograde in Cancer tends to blur the line between logic and feeling, so be mindful that not every emotional impulse needs to be voiced, especially if you're unsure of its root. Speech-related matters may become more sensitive. Perhaps you'll find yourself speaking impulsively and regretting it later, or struggling to find the right words to explain what you're truly feeling. This is not the time for big financial commitments, family confrontations, or launching anything that requires precise coordination or flawless communication. Errors in judgment, misplaced documents, or overlooked financial details could easily lead to minor setbacks. Yet, this is also a powerful time for internal correction. Retrogrades are ideal for reevaluation. The second house being connected to memory and family lineage, you may begin to dig deeper into your roots, possibly even reconnecting with long-lost relatives or confronting emotional baggage inherited from childhood. Conversations around inheritance, family wealth, or old traditions may come up, and you may need to be especially patient in handling these topics with compassion and clarity. Since the fourth house is involved, matters related to your mother, home property, or emotional grounding may play a role in what you're reevaluating. Jupiter's transit through your first house is incredibly significant, acting like a divine magnifier. While it's generally a positive influence that brings growth, wisdom, and recognition, Jupiter can also exaggerate tendencies, especially when paired with Mercury retrograde. You may feel a strong desire to expand, express, and do more, but Mercury's backward motion insists that you slow down and integrate before expanding further. In this sense, Mercury is acting as a check on Jupiter's enthusiasm. While Jupiter pushes you to seek new frontiers, Mercury demands that you return to foundational themes, your voice, your values, your family story, so that when expansion does come, it's rooted in integrity and self-awareness. Mercury's retrograde will also bring emphasis to how you communicate about money and your needs. You might discover that you're not being honest with yourself about what you truly want or need, perhaps overextending yourself financially for others, or undervaluing your skills and services. You may realize you've been too dependent on external validation or struggling with scarcity fears that aren't rooted in your present reality but stem from emotional or familial conditioning. These realizations, though uncomfortable, are incredibly productive. They allow you to rebuild your internal sense of value, which in turn improves how you attract and manage wealth. On a more external level, delays with paychecks, errors in banking, unplanned expenses, or confusion around contracts or taxes could surface during this time. Try to avoid major financial moves like taking loans, investing large sums, or changing jobs until Mercury turns direct. Review all paperwork meticulously, especially if it involves shared family resources or documentation linked to property or inheritance. As Saturn retrograde in Pisces, in your 10th house of career, Saturn's influence creates a backdrop of slow, deliberate growth and long-term karmic accountability. You may feel professional pressure or stagnation, which adds to the tension Mercury retrograde is already placing on your financial sense of security. This doesn't mean that things are falling apart. It simply means that you are being asked to recalibrate your foundations so that your future steps are more sustainable. The Mars-Ketu conjunction in Leo, in your 3rd house, can increase impulsiveness in communication or a strong desire to speak your truth. But paired with Mercury retrograde, this can be a recipe for emotional misfires. Choose your words carefully, especially when dealing with siblings, close relatives, or while engaging in media, writing, or public conversations. It's wise to pause before reacting, and if you feel misunderstood, wait for clarity rather than forcing a resolution. Once Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you will find a new level of clarity in matters of self-expression, money, family communication, and values. The delays or discomfort you felt during the retrograde will begin to dissolve, and you'll likely emerge with a more refined sense of purpose and emotional intelligence. Your communication will feel more authentic, your decision-making sharper, and your financial management wiser. In the grander scheme, this Mercury retrograde is offering you a rare opportunity to clean your internal lens, to revise your values, understand your emotional motivations, reconnect with family in a more conscious way, and rebuild the bridge between thought and feeling. As a Mercury-ruled sign, the clarity of your mind determines everything: your choices, your relationships, and your path forward. For Cancer, the Mercury retrograde is significant as it takes place in your 1st house, the house of self, identity, physical body, expression, appearance, and personal direction. Since Mercury governs your 3rd house, communication, skills, short travel, courage, siblings, and 12th house, isolation, subconscious, loss, foreign lands, sleep, spirituality, this retrograde promises to activate a deeply introspective and possibly confusing period where thoughts, outer actions, and communication are not in harmony. The impact of this retrograde will be strongly felt not just mentally or emotionally, but even in your behavior, how others perceive you, and how you perceive yourself. The 1st house is the foundation of your entire chart. It defines your health, physical presence, mannerisms, and the lens through which you view the world. When Mercury, the planet of intellect, speech, movement, and logic, slows down in this area, it can feel like your mental energy becomes tangled with your self-identity. You may begin to question your choices, your sense of direction, and even your opinions and plans. Normally, Cancer individuals operate from emotional intuition, but with Mercury retrograding in your sign, your mental patterns become highly active, analytical, and perhaps even anxious. This can lead to a sense of internal confusion or restlessness, feeling mentally overworked, yet unclear on what to say, do, or choose. Because Mercury rules your 3rd house, which is closely linked with communication, confidence, personal efforts, and skill building, you may find that your attempts to express yourself are met with resistance, misunderstanding, or a lack of clarity, especially in personal or one-on-one settings. You might notice yourself hesitating to speak openly, or alternatively, saying things impulsively and regretting them afterward. Writing, presenting, and other skill-based work may slow down, requiring revisions or repeated effort. Issues from your past, especially involving siblings or close relatives, could resurface, giving you the opportunity to reevaluate old conversations or misunderstood dynamics. If you've been neglecting a hobby or personal interest, it might reappear in your life now, demanding your attention once again, but this time from a more reflective, mature place. The 12th house rulership adds a layer of psychological and spiritual depth to this retrograde. The 12th house governs dreams, hidden fears, solitude, self-undoing, losses, material or emotional, healing, foreign travel, and transcendence. As Mercury retrogrades through your 1st house, you may feel more detached from worldly matters and drawn inward toward your subconscious world. You might experience vivid dreams, subconscious memories resurfacing, or an increased desire to be alone and reflect. Past regrets, old karmic stories, or unresolved emotional wounds may rise to the surface, not to destabilize you, but to offer a chance for conscious release and closure. People may misinterpret your intentions, especially if you're trying to explain emotional topics through logic alone. Being ruled by the moon, Cancer individuals are naturally emotionally intelligent, but Mercury's presence in retrograde here can create a disconnection between the heart and the head. You may overanalyze what you're feeling or struggle to articulate your emotions clearly. This mismatch can create tension in relationships, especially if others expect clarity or quick decisions from you. If possible, avoid getting pulled into unnecessary arguments or trying to justify every emotional reaction with logic, this won't work during this time and may leave you feeling frustrated or misunderstood. This period also isn't ideal for launching new personal projects, branding yourself, or making dramatic changes to your appearance or public image. Since the first house represents how the world sees you, Mercury retrograde can bring some distortion in your self-presentation, leading others to misunderstand your intentions or personality. It's better to use this period for internal realignment, revisiting old goals, reviewing your personal growth, and questioning whether your current life path truly reflects your deeper emotional needs and values. You may even feel temporarily disoriented about your purpose or sense of direction, but this confusion is ultimately productive. It pushes you to redefine what truly matters. On a physical level, this retrograde may affect your health or energy levels, especially if you're overworking your mind or suppressing emotions. Sleep patterns might become irregular, particularly with Mercury ruling your 12th house of rest and dreams. You could experience insomnia, mental agitation at night, or mental fatigue during the day. Listen to your body, slow down your pace, and allow time for introspection and emotional release. Meditation, journaling, or therapy may be extremely beneficial during this period. Simultaneously, Jupiter is transiting your 12th house in Gemini, expanding your awareness of hidden truths, subconscious patterns, and spiritual depth. This could magnify Mercury's retrograde impact, making your inner world even more active. You might have the urge to dive into philosophical or spiritual literature, or perhaps explore healing modalities such as energy work, therapy, or meditation retreats. Jupiter here encourages you to seek meaning and growth through internal exploration rather than external validation, and Mercury's retrograde motion offers the perfect environment to support that journey. Because both these energies influence your 1st and 12th houses, it's important to not isolate excessively or fall into escapist tendencies. Mercury retrograde in the 1st house, combined with Mars Ketu in the 2nd, can provoke verbal misfires, arguments over values, or quick financial decisions that may backfire. Practice restraint in communication and double-check your bank details, passwords, or any shared financial matters. Saturn's retrograde in Pisces, which falls in your 9th house, brings a karmic theme around belief systems, spiritual structures, and higher knowledge. You may feel a growing need to restructure your faith, question inherited philosophies, or re-examine your connection with mentors and teachers. With Mercury also retrograde, this period may feel mentally and spiritually intense. It's not the best time to commit to rigid belief systems or ideological stances. Instead, use this as a window to question, reflect, and gradually build a more authentic and emotionally aligned worldview. The Sun's presence in Cancer alongside retrograde Mercury further highlights your self-awareness, but also increases the chances of ego-related friction. The Sun adds brightness but also burns. It brings attention to your presence, but can overheat Mercury's already restless energy. Be cautious in how you assert yourself. You may feel more confident about expressing your identity one moment and deeply insecure the next. This roller coaster effect is temporary but can lead to emotional fatigue if you're not consciously grounding yourself. When Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you'll begin to feel a return of clarity, self-assurance, and improved communication. Overall, this Mercury retrograde is a profound mirror for Cancer individuals, an invitation to slow down and examine who you are beneath the surface. It is not meant to disorient you permanently but to illuminate the thought patterns, emotional habits, and subconscious beliefs that may no longer be serving your path. When you emerge from this cycle, your thoughts will align more closely with your feelings, and your sense of identity will feel less fragmented and more whole. For Leo, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer occurs in your 12th house, the zone associated with solitude, spirituality, foreign connections, hidden enemies, subconscious patterns, losses, expenses, and detachment. Since Mercury governs your 11th house, gains, friendships, ambitions, networks, and 2nd house, speech, family, wealth, values, this retrograde can be deeply impactful in matters related to your financial standing, inner voice, mental peace, emotional clarity, and your long-term aspirations. Adding to this intensity, your 1st house is currently hosting Mars and Ketu, amplifying themes of urgency, detachment, and a desire for transformation or isolation. This combination of energies creates a karmic gateway, one that demands introspection, emotional recalibration, and spiritual realignment. The 12th house is traditionally a mysterious and subtle space. It rules the unseen, the spiritual, the dream world, hidden fears, rest, and the psychological framework that often operates in the background of our lives. When Mercury retrogrades through this house, your mind turns inward, and thoughts become more reflective, even withdrawn. This is not a time when logical planning, external communication, or transactional thinking will feel natural. Instead, Mercury in retrograde here urges you to pause and examine what's happening beneath the surface. Mental distractions or overthinking may be amplified, especially regarding themes of self-worth, unfulfilled goals, or financial uncertainty. Because Mercury rules your 11th house, which governs ambitions, social circles, long-term hopes, and financial gains, its retrograde in the 12th house could signal a phase of disillusionment or detachment from friendships, group associations, or societal roles. You may feel a desire to step back from the world, especially if you've been feeling unappreciated, misunderstood, or emotionally drained in your connections. Some friendships may become distant, or you may realize you've outgrown certain circles. At the same time, you might begin questioning whether the goals you've been working towards still reflect who you are now. Your mind could drift toward revisiting old ambitions or reconnecting with causes you once cared about but abandoned. These realizations won't come quickly or clearly. Rather, they may arrive slowly, like emotional echoes in moments of solitude or silence. Mercury also rules your 2nd house, the area of speech, values, savings, food, and family. These areas will also feel the effects of this retrograde, but in subtle, introspective ways. Your financial situation might appear foggy, not necessarily because of external losses, but due to internal confusion or disconnection from how you've been handling your resources. You may forget to follow up on payments, misplace documents, or realize you've been spending without awareness. This is a period that demands financial caution, not large investments or quick decisions. You may feel withdrawn or less inclined to communicate, and when you do speak, your words may not land the way you intend. Since the 12th house is associated with silence, retreat, and dreamlike thinking, your mental clarity may be clouded. You may have brilliant insights, but struggle to articulate them in the moment. Alternatively, this period may help you connect deeply with your intuition, especially through journaling, meditation, or private reflection. If you're involved in writing, art, or healing professions, this Mercury retrograde can activate hidden creative currents, but they must be approached with patience. The presence of Mars and Ketu in Leo, your 1st house, adds a fiery layer to this otherwise quiet retrograde. Mars brings drive, aggression, and initiative, while Ketu contributes detachment, spiritual intensity, and disinterest in material concerns. Together in your sign, they can stir deep restlessness within you, a desire to act decisively, to cut away what no longer fits, to forge ahead into something radically different. Mercury's retrograde in the 12th acts like a spiritual break, reminding you that not all action is wise action, and not all endings are meant to be forced. There is danger here of speaking out too quickly, cutting off connections impulsively, or chasing a sense of urgency that isn't fully grounded in clarity. Emotional impulsivity combined with mental fog can lead to regrets later, especially if you react to emotional discomfort with external aggression. Instead, this retrograde invites you to look inward and detach, not in rebellion, but in reflection. Mars and Ketu may make you feel like tearing things down to rebuild, but Mercury in the 12th house whispers, first understand what you're truly running from. This is a highly spiritual time, where time spent alone, away from noise and overstimulation, will bring the greatest clarity. Old memories may come up, past heartbreaks, financial regrets, family wounds, and this can feel overwhelming at times. But this is also an opportunity to begin the healing process, especially in how you treat yourself. Your sleep and subconscious mind will also be active during this period. Many Leo individuals may experience vivid dreams, symbolic visions, or even sleeplessness due to overthinking. If you're carrying subconscious guilt, unresolved emotional pain, or avoidance patterns, Mercury's retrograde will magnify them, not to punish, but to purify. The 12th house is a powerful place for emotional release, and Mercury's presence here gives you the chance to rewire the way you talk to yourself. Be mindful of negative self-talk, fear-based thinking, or dwelling on imaginary outcomes. This retrograde is about facing what's been buried, not letting it dictate your future, but acknowledging it with compassion. Jupiter is currently transiting Gemini, your 11th house, expanding your networks, goals, and financial reach. While Mercury retrogrades, you may be receiving opportunities or invitations from friends or collaborators, but your spirit may not feel aligned with them right now. You might need to say no to good things to protect your peace, which can feel conflicting. But this too is part of the process. Not all expansion is evolution. Sometimes we must prune the branches to allow deeper roots to grow. Once Mercury turns direct on August 11th, the fog will slowly begin to lift. Clarity will come gradually. From mid-August through the end of the month, you'll begin to feel more centered, able to see what relationships, pursuits, and financial paths are still viable. Some friendships may be reestablished, or dreams you temporarily put on hold may now seem worth pursuing again, but from a different perspective. This Mercury retrograde in your 12th house is a deep psychological journey, a time to let go of outdated emotional patterns, to clear mental clutter, and to realign your spirit with your voice. It invites you to rest, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally. To sit in your silence and listen to what your heart has been trying to say beneath the noise. As a Leo, you naturally radiate outward, expressive, passionate, generous, but this retrograde asks for the opposite, to withdraw, reflect, and recharge before the next chapter unfolds. For Virgo, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer will be particularly impactful, given that Mercury is both your sign lord and the ruler of your 10th house. As it begins its retrograde journey through your 11th house, the sphere of long-term aspirations, gains, friendships, networks, social platforms, recognition, and your sense of belonging within large groups, you're likely to enter a time of introspection, recalibration, and emotional awareness regarding your relationships with others and your life direction. The 11th house is often referred to as the house of success after effort. It represents the fruits of your labor, those delayed rewards that come with persistence and alignment with your life's purpose. When Mercury, the planet of analysis, communication, and coordination, retrogrades through this space in the emotionally sensitive and intuitive sign of Cancer, it signals a time when your ambitions and associations may need to be emotionally reevaluated. You might find yourself questioning whether your current goals actually fulfill you on a deeper level, or whether you've been climbing a ladder that no longer feels aligned with your soul. This can be a period where the external rewards you're chasing, fame, income, social validation, or collaborative success, are brought under emotional scrutiny. You might notice a sense of discomfort, as if your success feels hollow, or you're not being recognized for your authentic self. This is Mercury whispering, pause and reconsider. Are your efforts leading you toward true fulfillment, or are you being driven by outdated expectations? With Cancer's emotional depth coloring Mercury's logical precision, your mind will be caught between what makes practical sense and what makes emotional sense, and the two may not always agree. With Mercury also ruling your first house, this retrograde will naturally impact your physical energy, identity, health, and personal behavior. Your thinking patterns may become more introspective and at times overactive. You may begin to doubt your decisions or feel that your ideas aren't being received the way you intended. Since the 11th house deals with social groups and platforms, miscommunications within your friend circle or online networks could create temporary misunderstandings or conflict. Someone from the past, perhaps an old friend, colleague, or mentor, might re-enter your life, prompting you to revisit unresolved themes from an earlier time. These reappearances are not coincidences. They are opportunities to clarify, reconnect, or find closure. Since the 11th house is also related to financial gains and bonus income, particularly from career efforts, 10th house, delays in expected payments, contracts, or collaborations can occur during this time. You might find that your goals are not moving forward as quickly as you anticipated. Rather than push through obstacles with force, this period asks you to slow down, review your plans, and refine your strategy. Perhaps a long-term dream needs adjustment. Perhaps the people you've been relying on to help you achieve your goals are no longer aligned with your values. These realizations can be jarring but ultimately freeing. The influence on your 10th house, ruled by Mercury, further highlights your professional life, social status, and public image. Your reputation may undergo a period of flux. Others might misunderstand your intentions at work, or you may be less visible in professional settings. You could begin to reconsider your career path altogether, especially if you're feeling emotionally disconnected from your current profession. Also in play is Jupiter's transit through your 10th house, the house ruled by Mercury. While Jupiter brings expansion and opportunity in career matters, Mercury's retrograde will slow the pace at which these blessings materialize. It's almost as if you're being told, yes, big things are coming, but only once you clear the emotional and mental clutter surrounding your goals. Take this retrograde as a preparatory pause before larger doors open. Use this time to question your ambitions. In the digital age, the 11th house also rules social media and online presence. Mercury retrograde here can create hiccups with technology, online miscommunication, or confusion around digital branding. If you're involved in online business, community building, or content creation, you may find that your efforts are not yielding the engagement you expect. Posts might not land well, messages might be misinterpreted, or technical delays could slow down your work. Use this time to revise your content, realign your message, and ensure that what you're expressing truly reflects your current self. Don't rush to launch anything new just yet. The cosmos is asking you to perfect what's already in motion. This period is also excellent for reconnecting with older goals or reviving abandoned projects. Perhaps there's something you started years ago, a dream, a plan, or a business idea that never took off. Mercury retrograde in the 11th house can breathe new life into that concept, especially if it aligns with who you are now. Success will come not from forcing growth but from emotionally integrating your vision with your values. On the emotional level, since Cancer is the sign Mercury is retrograding in, you're likely to be more emotionally sensitive and nostalgic during this time. Memories tied to old friendships, community experiences, or even past social disappointments may resurface. Don't dismiss them. These memories are being brought up for resolution. Perhaps you need to forgive yourself for decisions you made when you didn't know better. Perhaps you need to forgive others for not seeing your worth. Either way, emotional closure is possible if you approach these revelations with gentleness and honesty. The Sun will also be transiting Cancer, conjuncting Mercury, especially in the first half of this retrograde. This union adds intensity to your self-expression, ego identity, and interactions with friends and groups. It can make your words feel more charged, your emotions more visible. You might speak passionately or even defensively, especially if you feel misunderstood. Watch your tone, and be mindful of how your emotional energy is coming through your words and actions. Further amplifying the internal friction is the Mars, Ketu conjunction in Leo, placed in your 12th house. When combined with Mercury retrograde in the 11th, this can result in a deep inner conflict between needing solitude and feeling unseen. You may need time away from the noise to truly reflect on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who you're doing it with. When Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you will begin to see your professional path, social roles, and long-term goals with renewed clarity. The fog will begin to lift, and slowly, the plans and projects you revised during the retrograde will start to gain momentum again, this time with greater emotional resonance and alignment. Your social life may stabilize, and the relationships that remain will likely be stronger, more intentional, and rooted in mutual respect. Overall, this Mercury retrograde is a course correction for Virgo individuals, a temporary retreat that invites you to revise your dreams, examine your affiliations, and redefine success in a way that integrates both your logic and your emotional truth. It's about making space for more authentic ambitions, letting go of superficial associations, and rediscovering the emotional why behind your public efforts. For Libra, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer unfolds in your 10th house, the area of career, public recognition, social status, responsibilities, and your relationship with authority. Mercury, the planet of thought, speech, and planning, governs your 9th house of higher knowledge, beliefs, dharma, and long-distance journeys, as well as your 12th house of isolation, sleep, foreign lands, and spiritual release. When it retrogrades in the 10th house, it forms a direct line of influence between your higher purpose, 9th, your public life, 10th, and your inner journey, 12th, a triad that reflects a much deeper transformation than simply career slowdown or communication issues. The 10th house in astrology is considered one of the most visible and consequential houses. It's where the world sees you in action. It reflects your contribution to society, the image you've built, your achievements, and how you respond to responsibilities and social expectations. When Mercury retrogrades here, your professional communications, decision-making ability, and reputation may enter a period of flux. Emails go missing, projects stall, instructions are misunderstood, and discussions with higher-ups could become emotionally charged or unclear. But beneath this surface disruption lies something more profound: the need to reevaluate your career path and its alignment with your evolving values. Cancer is a deeply emotional and intuitive sign, ruled by the moon, which means that logic-based Mercury is already slightly uncomfortable here. In retrograde motion, Mercury becomes even more introspective and sensitive. For Libra individuals, who are generally diplomatic and relationship-focused, this may create a conflict between emotional resonance and public performance. You may suddenly feel out of sync with your career, question your role, or feel a disconnect between what you're doing and why you're doing it. Even if you appear successful on the surface, this retrograde may stir dissatisfaction or emotional burnout that you can no longer ignore. It brings with it a desire to shift towards something more meaningful, something that doesn't just pay the bills but fulfills a deeper spiritual or ideological purpose. Mercury's rulership over your 9th house adds a philosophical layer to this transit. The 9th house is your house of faith, wisdom, higher learning, mentors, and moral compass. As Mercury retrogrades through your career house while holding domain over your belief systems, you may start reassessing the very ideology on which your career is based. Are you working for something you truly believe in? Are you following your dharma, your higher calling? Have you outgrown the belief systems that once guided your choices? These questions may not be answered quickly. In fact, this retrograde will likely pull you into a period of introspective searching, where you'll feel compelled to revisit old dreams, reconsider your mentor's advice, or question long-held convictions that no longer fit your current life direction. Mercury also rules your 12th house, the domain of loss, retreat, surrender, and subconscious healing. This means that while all the career-based disruptions are happening externally, internally you're being pulled into a deeply spiritual reevaluation. The 12th house often brings a desire to retreat or disengage from the outside world. You may feel torn between wanting to be seen and needing solitude. This could manifest in subtle but powerful ways, like feeling invisible in meetings, sensing a lack of validation at work, or simply needing more mental space to recharge. In some cases, you might even consider leaving your job, taking a sabbatical, or looking into opportunities abroad or in spiritual service fields. There may also be moments where you're unsure whether to trust your intuition or follow traditional logic, especially in career decisions. With Mercury retrograde in the moon's sign, emotional intelligence will be important. Try not to suppress your emotional instincts. If something feels off, even if it appears right on paper, it's worth revisiting. This is not a time to force clarity but to allow space for deeper awareness to emerge. Communication with bosses, clients, or government officials may feel strained during this time. Misunderstandings or emotional misinterpretations are likely. You may be held accountable for things you didn't say or made responsible for decisions you didn't make. This is why careful, intentional communication is essential. Double-check your words, avoid emotionally charged responses, and postpone confrontational discussions if possible until after Mercury goes direct. Mercury also rules contracts and written agreements, so if you must sign anything professionally during this time, ensure it's been reviewed multiple times, preferably by a third party. The presence of Mars and Ketu in Leo, transiting your 11th house, further complicates this period. The 11th house governs gains from profession, social networks, ambition, and large-scale projects. Mars brings urgency, assertiveness, and conflict, while Ketu introduces detachment, confusion, or karmic clearing. These energies can make you highly ambitious and simultaneously emotionally disengaged, a dangerous combination if not handled with awareness. You might feel frustrated by your lack of progress or disconnected from your goals. Mercury retrograde in your 10th house will force you to slow down and reconsider if your aspirations still inspire you, or if they need a new direction entirely. Watch for clashes with friends or collaborators, particularly over group projects or differing values. At the same time, Jupiter is transiting Gemini, your 9th house, which Mercury rules. This transit amplifies your quest for meaning, spiritual truth, and moral clarity. Jupiter's expansive energy might clash with Mercury's reflective, hesitant mood. You might feel torn between leaping into new belief systems or opportunities and being held back by doubt, nostalgia, or unfinished karma. Trust that this retrograde is not blocking your path. It is asking you to refine it. It is teaching you to be mindful of the steps you take, to ensure they align with your evolving worldview. The Sun's concurrent transit through Cancer, conjuncting Mercury in your 10th house, also intensifies the pressure on your public life and self-expression. The Sun brings visibility but also ego. Be cautious not to let wounded pride or defensiveness dictate your words in professional settings. This is a time to listen more and speak less, to digest before you respond. The desire for validation can be high, but true growth will come from emotional authenticity, not applause. After Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you'll start noticing clarity return. Professional misunderstandings will begin to clear, decisions you postponed can now be made with greater insight, and your sense of purpose will gradually realign. Overall, for Libra individuals, this Mercury retrograde in the 10th house is not merely about workplace confusion or a delay in promotions. It's a profound moment of inner reckoning between what you do for the world and what you believe deep inside. It challenges you to bring emotional truth into your public life, to honor both your ambitions and your soul's yearning. It asks you to restructure your goals around wisdom, not performance, and to trust that when inner alignment is restored, outer success naturally follows. For Scorpio, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer brings a deeply introspective phase as it transits through your 9th house, the house of higher wisdom, belief systems, long-distance travel, mentors, religion, and life philosophy. Mercury, the planet of communication, analysis, and movement, rules your 8th house, hidden truths, transformation, shared resources, secrecy, and your 11th house, gains, networks, ambitions, social influence. When it begins its retrograde journey in this emotionally sensitive and intuitive water sign, it will initiate a profound period of soul-searching, reevaluation of your beliefs, and mental transformation, especially around subjects that have long felt stable or unquestioned. The 9th house governs the abstract area of faith, ideology, morals, and your perception of the world at large. When Mercury retrogrades here, it creates a potent climate for re-examining the philosophical framework through which you operate. As a Scorpio native, you're already wired to go deep, to probe beneath the surface, and to challenge convention. During this retrograde, those tendencies are amplified. You might find yourself questioning long-standing belief systems, doubting a mentor's guidance, or even re-evaluating your spiritual inclinations. It's a time when you feel mentally distant from previously held truths, and while this may be disorienting, it's necessary. Mercury isn't here to dismantle your beliefs without purpose. It's here to refine them, helping you separate inherited ideas from your authentic inner truth. Cancer's emotional current adds a layer of sentimentality and sensitivity to this process. You're not just revisiting ideas, you're reliving emotional experiences tied to those beliefs. Memories of what you were taught, what you trusted, and what you once believed was sacred. Family teachings, childhood religious impressions, or cultural traditions may resurface now, demanding review. You may find yourself conflicted between intellectual logic and emotional memory, and this internal contrast is what makes the transit so transformative. Because Mercury governs your 8th house, themes of secrecy, emotional wounds, deep fears, taboos, and shared vulnerabilities will subtly influence this retrograde. The 8th house also rules major transformations, crises, and the mysteries of life, and its influence during Mercury's backward motion can create a period where you're intensely curious about hidden knowledge, mystical paths, or psychological healing. This is a favorable time to study esoteric subjects, reread spiritual texts, or engage in therapy. Be mindful of obsessively analyzing people or events from your past. You're meant to understand, not to spiral. The 8th house rulership also introduces the possibility of resurfacing matters related to inheritance, joint finances, or confidential agreements, especially if these issues involve people from foreign lands or distant relatives, as the 9th house represents long-distance connections. Legal matters or documents related to wills, taxes, or ancestral property may need a second look. If you've been delaying looking into paperwork or unresolved family business, this retrograde may push the issue to the surface. While this can be unsettling, it provides an opportunity to untangle financial or karmic ties that have kept you stuck. Mercury also rules your 11th house, which governs long-term ambitions, friendships, networks, recognition, and financial rewards from your work. Its retrograde in the 9th house may trigger a disconnection between your current ambitions and your guiding life philosophy. You might feel a lack of fulfillment from your achievements, or question whether your social circles and professional networks align with your values. Social groups you belong to, especially ones connected to education, belief systems, or humanitarian goals, may undergo change. Friendships may feel distant, or old contacts may unexpectedly reach out. Take these interactions as cues for reflection. What you gain from your community now needs to be based on truth, not obligation. If you've been planning travel, particularly for spiritual purposes, study, or work, you may encounter delays or rerouting. The 9th house governs all long-distance journeys, physical or intellectual, and Mercury retrograde in this sector often brings disruptions. Flights may be rescheduled, documents may be misplaced, or confusion around international communication may occur. If you're studying, publishing, or dealing with legal matters, be extra cautious about deadlines, misprints, or miscommunication. That said, this is an ideal time to review or revise written work, prepare for future academic endeavors, or revisit old study material that holds deeper relevance now. Simultaneously, Mars and Ketu are transiting Leo, your 10th house of career and reputation. This combination stirs intense ambition but also a sense of disconnection from your professional life. Mars pushes you to achieve, while Ketu wants detachment, often creating frustration, burnout, or a desire to break away from the usual path. Combined with Mercury retrograding in the 9th, these transits may push you to consider career shifts based on philosophical realignment. You might no longer resonate with your current role or may feel that your work lacks deeper purpose. Avoid impulsive decisions, but listen closely to what your discomfort is trying to reveal. Jupiter's transit through Gemini, placed in your 8th house, magnifies these themes of transformation, psychological depth, and hidden knowledge. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and in the 8th house, it wants you to explore your shadow side, shared resources, intimacy, and long-held fears. Mercury retrograde will likely stir memories or reflections that correlate with this deeper emotional work. If you're feeling emotionally raw or psychologically overstimulated, create space for healing. Journaling, spiritual mentorship, or solitary contemplation will be powerful tools. Adding further emphasis to this emotional and intellectual shakeup is the Sun's presence in Cancer, which brings extra light to the 9th house during Mercury's retrograde. The Sun illuminates beliefs, ego-driven ideologies, and your public identity as a knower or teacher. This light, combined with Mercury's regression, might expose ego attachments to certain belief systems or show where pride has kept you from exploring other perspectives. As uncomfortable as this may be, it's an invitation to humble the mind and open the heart to deeper wisdom. When Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you'll find that your new beliefs, or revisions of old ones, carry more authenticity. You may return to your career with a stronger sense of purpose, resume educational pursuits with refined vision, or re-enter community spaces that now reflect your evolved values. The confusion will clear, but it will leave behind a cleaner, more integrated mental landscape. Overall, This Mercury retrograde is a powerful intellectual and spiritual cleansing for Scorpio individuals. It requires you to examine what you believe, why you believe it, and how that belief system interacts with your ambitions, finances, and social connections. You're being guided inward, not to isolate, but to reconnect with your personal truth in a way that transforms your entire outlook. For Sagittarius, the Mercury retrograde in Cancer unfolds in your 8th house, a domain associated with transformation, shared finances, psychological depths, hidden truths, crises, and spiritual evolution. Since Mercury governs both your 7th house, relationships, marriage, business partnerships, and your 10th house, career, public reputation, duties, this retrograde phase brings important developments, introspections, and reconfigurations in both your personal bonds and professional life, with a deep emotional and karmic tone attached to them. The 8th house is never about surface-level experiences. It's a space that draws you into intense internal shifts, emotional reckonings, and sometimes, life-altering events. When Mercury, planet of logic, communication, and intellect, enters retrograde motion in this part of your chart, your thinking patterns, discussions, and decisions become closely tied to emotional undercurrents, subconscious fears, and unresolved dynamics from the past. The fact that it's transiting through Cancer, a watery, intuitive, and emotionally charged sign, only deepens this process. Your mind may become absorbed with thoughts you cannot easily articulate, and you might find yourself going back to old emotional patterns or secrets long buried, either your own or someone else's. Because Mercury rules your 7th house, relationships become a key theme. This retrograde may bring unresolved issues with a partner to the surface. If you're married or in a committed relationship, this could be a time when past misunderstandings, emotional wounds, or unspoken fears begin to resurface. Conversations may become indirect, or your partner may withdraw emotionally, prompting you to dig beneath their words to understand their true feelings. Trust issues, vulnerability, or emotional dependence may become talking points, yet it's less about confrontation and more about emotional excavation. If the relationship has built up resentment or unacknowledged grievances, Mercury retrograde may amplify them, not to break things apart, but to encourage deep healing and mutual understanding. For those not in relationships, you may find yourself contemplating past romantic entanglements, especially those that left psychological or emotional residue. People from the past may reappear, physically or emotionally, or you may simply begin revisiting old emotional narratives about love, rejection, or betrayal. This can be an excellent time for therapy, journaling, or inward exploration to help you reclaim personal power and emotional clarity. Mercury in the 8th house forces you to ask not what happened, but why did it affect me this way, and what needs to be healed or redefined. In business partnerships, caution is advised. Misunderstandings, breaches of trust, or differences in values and strategy may emerge. Since Mercury also governs contracts, negotiations, and agreements, it's not ideal to sign new documents during this retrograde unless absolutely necessary. And even then, they should be reviewed multiple times. Delays in collaborative ventures may occur, and financial matters involving shared investments, taxes, inheritance, or mutual responsibilities could come under scrutiny. It's wise to check your finances, double-check accounts, and avoid speculative investments during this phase. Transparency is essential, especially when dealing with other people's money. Considering Mercury's rulership of your 10th house of career, reputation, and duties, its retrograde in the 8th suggests that behind-the-scenes professional matters may begin to stir, especially those involving political dynamics at work, hidden agendas, or unspoken expectations. You may feel unclear about your position or face emotional turbulence linked to authority figures, public image, or responsibility overload. If you've been suppressing dissatisfaction with your job or doubting whether your current career truly reflects your values, this retrograde will nudge you to revisit those concerns. Perhaps you're holding back from pursuing a more meaningful path, or you're working in an environment where emotional safety and authenticity are compromised. During this time, your mental energy may retreat inward, making it harder to be publicly expressive or professionally assertive. If you're feeling burned out, exhausted, or disconnected from your ambitions, it's a sign to pause and listen to your emotional needs, not to push through mechanically. There's a reason Mercury is making you reflect on the inner workings of your emotional and psychological terrain. It's so that when you return to the world, you do so with clarity, integrity, and restored vitality. In addition to emotional processing, the 8th house rules spiritual transformation and occult knowledge. This Mercury retrograde is an incredibly fertile time to explore astrology, tantra, mysticism, metaphysics, and other esoteric subjects. If you've been curious about these subjects, this is the universe inviting you to go deeper. Psychic insights or symbolic dreams may become more frequent now. Pay attention to patterns, signs, and intuitive nudges. They are Mercury's messages delivered not through logic, but through emotion and intuition. Overlaying this retrograde period is the Mars, K2 conjunction in Leo, currently transiting your 9th house. This brings spiritual restlessness and ideological frustration. You may feel eager to break free from outdated belief systems, but simultaneously detached from any philosophy that previously guided you. This can compound the Mercury retrograde process, leading to a crisis of faith, worldview, or purpose. You may begin to challenge the doctrines you once followed, or seek new ways to understand your place in the universe. Don't rush toward conclusions. Let yourself question without demanding instant clarity. The confusion is not a failure, it's a sacred unraveling. Meanwhile, Jupiter's transit through Gemini, in your 7th house, which Mercury also rules. Jupiter seeks to expand, and in the 7th, it magnifies your relationships and interactions. But Mercury's retrograde might delay or complicate this growth temporarily, forcing you to reevaluate how you connect, what you expect in partnerships, and how your spiritual growth fits into your relational dynamics. There's wisdom here. Not all expansion is productive. Sometimes, we must clear emotional debris before we're ready to embrace new growth. The Sun's concurrent transit through Cancer, forming a conjunction with Mercury at various degrees, intensifies self-awareness and ego sensitivity around the very themes Mercury is trying to revise: control, vulnerability, power dynamics, and emotional inheritance. You may feel especially exposed or emotionally reactive in personal and professional conversations. Let the light of the Sun bring clarity, not pride. It's a good time to witness your emotional patterns without judgment. As Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you will slowly begin to regain your mental sharpness, understand the deeper reasons behind your inner discomfort, and find that you've emerged stronger, more self-aware, more emotionally attuned, and more aligned with your real priorities. Overall, for Sagittarius individuals, this Mercury retrograde is not just about communication errors or emotional confusion. It is a deeply cathartic journey into the heart of what you fear, avoid, suppress, or ignore, especially in your partnerships, career, and internal belief systems. It urges you to confront emotional legacies, renegotiate shared responsibilities, and peel away the protective layers around your vulnerability. While it may feel overwhelming at times, trust that what is being deconstructed now is meant to give birth to a more emotionally liberated, psychologically empowered, and spiritually aligned version of you. For Capricorn, the Mercury retrograde in Cancer is in your 7th house, the house of partnerships, marriage, business alliances, public dealings, legal contracts, and one-on-one relationships. This is a significant placement for Mercury's retrograde, as it doesn't just influence your inner world but directly impacts how you interact with others in close, emotionally involved spaces. The 7th house represents not just a spouse or significant other, but also any relationship where two parties are required to work together cooperatively. This includes business partnerships, legal negotiations, and professional collaborations. When Mercury, planet of intellect, speech, logic, and contracts, turns retrograde here, it brings up unresolved themes tied to communication, misalignment of expectations, and hidden emotional undercurrents within these relationships. Since Mercury retrogrades in Cancer, a sensitive, emotional, and intuitive water sign, the focus isn't just on what is said, but how it's emotionally received. Miscommunication during this time often stems not from facts being wrong but from emotional nuance being misunderstood. For those in a committed relationship or marriage, this transit may highlight emotional distance, unspoken frustrations, or differences in values that were previously glossed over. Conversations with your partner might feel like they're going in circles. You may find yourself needing to clarify intentions again and again, or feel unheard despite expressing yourself. The retrograde here acts as a mirror, reflecting emotional wounds and communication breakdowns that need addressing. Past disagreements may resurface, especially those that were never properly resolved. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It is an opportunity to refine the emotional language of your relationship and foster a more honest and empathetic bond. If you're single, this transit can draw your mind toward past relationships or recurring partnership patterns. Exes or old acquaintances might reappear, either in person or in thought, prompting introspection. Mercury retrograde wants you to revisit those lessons, not to reopen wounds, but to examine how your perception of love, union, and mutual respect has evolved. You may also reevaluate what you seek in a partner or question whether your current ideal still holds emotional truth for you. On the professional side, the 7th house also governs contracts and public interactions. Business deals may stall or require renegotiation. If you are in a joint venture or dependent on professional partnerships, this could be a time when trust and alignment issues come into view. Avoid signing new agreements unless thoroughly reviewed, and be cautious in making commitments based on verbal understandings. Misunderstandings could arise even in seemingly simple interactions, especially with clients or colleagues where emotions are subtly at play. Try to maintain emotional objectivity, but don't ignore the intuition that tells you something feels off. Considering that Mercury also governs your 6th house, the domain of conflicts, litigation, health, daily routines, and service-oriented work. When its retrograde energy seeps into the 7th house, conflicts with others, especially partners, may take on a legal or formal tone, or be connected to unresolved daily stressors. Disputes with a spouse or business partner may revolve around duties, schedules, or even financial responsibilities. If there are any open legal cases or health-related issues, particularly involving a partner, Mercury's retrograde might cause delays, misfiled paperwork, or the need to revisit a previously discussed resolution. This is also a chance to find alternative solutions. Perhaps what was overlooked before now becomes clearer under introspection. The rulership of the 9th house, spirituality, long-distance travel, higher learning, philosophy, and belief systems, by Mercury adds a unique depth to this transit. You're not just revisiting conversations with others, you're also re-examining the ideological basis of those connections. You may find that ideological or cultural differences surface more intensely now, prompting discussions around religion, education, moral beliefs, or even where to live. There may also be revisiting of legal matters related to foreign lands or immigration, especially if your personal or professional partnerships are tied to long-distance elements. If you're a student, teacher, or involved in publishing, you may experience mental fatigue or delays related to intellectual output or academic progress. It's a good time to review, revise, and reflect rather than launch something new. Writers and content creators may benefit from this reflective energy to polish work that's already in progress, but may struggle to articulate new ideas clearly until Mercury goes direct. Overlaying this introspective retrograde is the Saturn retrograde in Pisces, currently moving through your 3rd house, the house of communication, mental discipline, courage, siblings, and short-distance travel. Saturn's backward motion here reinforces Mercury's message: pause, reflect, edit, and slow down. Saturn in Pisces demands emotional maturity and patience when dealing with miscommunication, misunderstandings, and delays. The 3rd house also links to how you express yourself on a daily basis, and Saturn's influence may feel restrictive, as if you're constantly second-guessing your words or struggling to say what's truly in your heart. It's meant to teach you clarity through restraint, choosing the right words after measured thought. Together, Mercury and Saturn retrogrades can create a temporary sense of emotional heaviness around relationships and communication. You may feel as though conversations are hard work or progress is glacial. But again, this is a necessary slowdown. Your outer life is asking to be realigned with clarity. Rather than reacting, you're being guided to respond with purpose and emotional depth. There may also be implications for your physical health, especially related to stress, digestion, or hormonal balance, which are Mercury-related concerns. The 6th house rulership suggests you might notice that emotional unrest in your partnerships is taking a toll on your body, either through sleep disturbances or appetite changes. This is a reminder that your emotional relationships are deeply tied to your well-being. Don't dismiss the signals your body is sending during this time. A balanced lifestyle, mindful eating, and rest will go a long way in keeping your system centered. As Mercury turns direct on August 11th, there will be a subtle lifting of the fog. The realizations, reflections, and changes seeded during the retrograde will begin to bear fruit. You may find that certain conversations finally yield results, relationships stabilize, and plans begin to gain traction again. Whether you chose to reconcile, recommit, or release a connection, these decisions will now be based on clearer emotional insight and spiritual alignment. Overall, for Capricorn individuals, this Mercury retrograde marks an emotionally pivotal time in the area of relationships, commitments, and values. It invites you to take a thoughtful pause, allowing space for emotional awareness and constructive dialogue. Whether it is romantic love, professional collaboration, or public dealings, Mercury is asking you to reconsider how much clarity, emotional intelligence, and shared belief systems are present in your partnerships. With Saturn also retrograde, the need to review your communication style, rediscipline your thoughts, and refine your boundaries becomes even more pronounced. For Aquarius, the Mercury retrograde in Cancer takes place in your 6th house, a domain associated with work, responsibilities, service, daily routines, health, debts, litigation, and conflict resolution. Mercury, the planet of intellect, communication, and logic, governs your 5th house, creativity, romance, children, speculative ventures, and emotional expression, and your 8th house, transformation, deep emotional processing, secrets, inheritance, shared resources, and the unknown. When Mercury moves backward in a water sign like Cancer, the emotional undercurrents become louder than the words themselves. And when it does so in the house of pressure, routine, and service, the emotional tension tied to duty and unresolved matters begins to surface. The sixth house is often referred to as the house of enemies, but it includes not only external challenges but also internal ones, like negative thought patterns, anxieties, and the self-critical voice. With Mercury turning retrograde here, you may notice that your mental clarity seems clouded, particularly when dealing with everyday responsibilities. There may be recurring miscommunications with coworkers, scheduling errors, forgotten appointments, or breakdowns in organization. Even mundane tasks could start to feel overwhelming, as your mental bandwidth is pulled toward deeper emotional processing. Cancer's influence makes your daily functioning more emotional than usual. Small irritants that you would normally brush off may begin to weigh heavily on you, and underlying emotional dissatisfaction with work or routine might surface through subtle physical or psychological symptoms. Since Mercury is retrograding through a house of health, and also rules the 8th house, there's a clear indication that any long-standing health issues, especially those related to the nervous system, digestion, or stress, might require reassessment. Old symptoms may return, and if you've been ignoring health signals, this retrograde could make them impossible to overlook. This is also a chance to look deeper. The 8th house's involvement points to mental stress, physical symptoms that stem from emotional suppression, anxiety, or unprocessed trauma. This could be the right time to revisit a past diagnosis, seek second opinions, or adopt alternative healing modalities that blend emotional insight with physical care. Now, Mercury's rulership of the 5th house brings your emotional expression, romantic life, and creative interests into the spotlight as well. The connection between the 5th and 6th houses during this retrograde suggests a collision between desire and duty, between self-expression and self-discipline. You may feel as if your creative flow has dried up under the weight of daily demands, or that romantic communication becomes strained or emotionally charged. In matters of the heart, misunderstandings are highly likely. If you're in a romantic relationship, misaligned emotional needs or unset expectations might come to the forefront. You or your partner may be more emotionally sensitive now, leading to clashes over relatively minor issues. This retrograde doesn't intend to break bonds, but to help rework the emotional communication patterns within them. In many cases, memories of a past romantic connection may resurface. Whether these arise through dreams, unexpected messages, or emotional triggers, Mercury is nudging you to reconsider how you've dealt with matters of love and vulnerability. These internal reflections can bring deep emotional clarity, especially as Cancer heightens your connection to your inner world and emotional history. For those working in creative or intellectual professions, this period may bring an important revision phase. Rather than initiating new projects, it is far more beneficial to revisit and refine existing ideas or expressions. A creative piece you once abandoned may now seem ripe for completion. The retrograde encourages slowing down and embracing introspection, especially when it comes to the emotional messages you are trying to convey through your work. From a financial perspective, Mercury's connection to the 8th house also ties it to shared resources, loans, taxes, and joint investments. During this time, avoid entering new financial agreements, especially if they involve shared commitments or complicated terms. If you must proceed with financial paperwork, double-check all documents and avoid rushing decisions. This is a period that may expose errors in past transactions or prompt you to rethink joint investments. It may also be a time when secrets or misunderstandings regarding shared finances come to light. Saturn's retrograde in 2nd house emphasizes the importance of restructuring your relationship with money, your voice, and how you define inner security. Saturn's lessons are about maturity, responsibility, and delayed gratification. Its influence may intensify the need to rework unhealthy financial habits or deal with issues of self-worth that are being triggered by your daily environment or partnerships. If you've been overworking without proper compensation or compromising your peace for the sake of stability, Saturn will ask for recalibration. You are being pushed to anchor your value in your truth, not in your output. Meanwhile, Rahu's transit through Aquarius, your own sign, adds yet another dimension to this already complex dynamic. Rahu in the 1st house intensifies your ambitions, your public image, and your desire for personal advancement. It creates an insatiable drive to stand out, lead, or even reinvent yourself, but often through unconventional or disruptive paths. The danger here is that your attention may be scattered, and your desire for innovation might clash with the emotional weight Mercury is stirring up in the 6th house. This tug-of-war between your public persona and private duties could feel destabilizing. While Rahu encourages rapid forward movement, Mercury's retrograde demands slowness, emotional clarity, and reflection. During this phase, communication with authority figures, co-workers, romantic partners, and even your own inner voice may require extra care. Words have weight now, and even the smallest comment could be taken more emotionally than intended. Be patient with others and with yourself. Emotional clarity, not cleverness, is the key to resolving disputes and aligning your path forward. As Mercury moves direct again on August 11th, you may begin to feel the emotional fog lifting. Solutions to previously tangled problems will become clearer. You'll be more prepared to act on creative goals, adjust daily routines with more insight, and restore balance in your relationships and health. Overall, for Aquarius individuals, this Mercury retrograde is about reworking the structure and emotional tone of your daily existence. It urges you to examine whether your routine supports your mental, physical, and emotional wellness. With Mercury ruling on your 5th and 8th houses, there's also a strong message to heal your relationship with expression, intimacy, creativity, and vulnerability. Saturn's slow revision of your financial and value system, along with Rahu's intense self-focus, makes this a powerful, but potentially disorienting, time. Yet it's within this confusion that the deepest clarity can emerge. Embrace the discomfort as a teacher. This retrograde is not a step back. It's a conscious pause designed to align your external actions with your inner truth. For Pisces, the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Cancer occurs in your 5th house, the domain that governs creativity, self-expression, romance, children, education, and emotional fulfillment. Mercury, a planet symbolizing communication, intellect, reasoning, and learning, rules your 4th house, home, inner peace, mother, domestic life, and 7th house, marriage, partnerships, public relations. With Mercury moving backward in an emotional water sign like Cancer, and doing so in the 5th house of love and inspiration, the impact on you will be profoundly internal, intuitive, and emotionally reflective, bringing you back to the heart of what brings joy, love, and emotional connection into your life. Mercury retrograding in Cancer in the 5th house will prompt a period of deep emotional review, particularly around how you give and receive affection, how you express your creative identity, and how you relate to those you love, including children or romantic interests. Since Cancer is ruled by the moon, your emotional memory and subconscious conditioning will dominate much of this review process. You may find yourself revisiting past romantic experiences, either through actual reconnections or simply through vivid memories and internal emotional surfacing. The intention is not necessarily to rekindle old flames, but to better understand how your emotional expressions have evolved, and what patterns from the past still unconsciously shape your expectations around love and vulnerability. In romantic life, this could be a time of emotional confusion or communication breakdowns. If you're currently in a relationship, conversations may veer toward misinterpretations or overly sensitive responses. The issue might not be what is said, but how it is perceived emotionally. Cancer heightens emotional responses, and with Mercury in reverse, the wires can easily get crossed. One partner might feel ignored while the other believes they are doing their best to be present. This emotional misalignment must be approached with patience and empathy. You're being invited to slow down, reflect, and express your emotions with greater care and nuance. If you are single, this Mercury retrograde may bring past romantic interests back into your awareness. Some may even reappear in real life, or through messages or interactions. These revisits serve a purpose: to uncover lingering attachments or unresolved lessons. These insights could be incredibly valuable in shaping the kind of romantic life you now wish to experience, one rooted not in fantasy or fear, but in emotional maturity and authentic self-expression. As the 5th house also governs creative energy and artistic output, this retrograde is highly influential for artists, writers, performers, or anyone working in creative fields. You may find your usual flow disrupted, with ideas taking longer to form or feeling too emotionally charged to articulate. But rather than forcing new creations, this time is better used to revisit unfinished works, refine previous projects, or return to forgotten inspirations. Creative blocks during Mercury retrograde are invitations to go deeper, not just in technique, but in emotional honesty. Let your art become a vessel for emotional healing rather than public perfection. For those with children, Mercury retrograde in the May 5th require you to reassess your communication with them. Whether you're dealing with young children, teenagers, or adult children, misunderstandings can arise more easily now. You may realize that emotional expectations were not being clearly expressed, either from your side or theirs. Cancer's nurturing nature reminds you that children often respond more to the emotional tone than to the actual words, so it's a valuable time to soften your communication, become more present, and listen more deeply. Parenting decisions may also require review, especially those related to schooling, routines, or emotional guidance. Now, since Mercury rules your 4th and 7th houses, the themes of home life and significant partnerships are woven into this retrograde story. The 4th house connection means that domestic matters, whether related to property, your living situation, or relationships with your mother or maternal figures, may also come up for reevaluation. You may feel nostalgic for your childhood or find yourself reflecting on how your upbringing shaped your beliefs about love, security, and emotional validation. Mercury in Cancer tends to trigger deep emotional memory, and as it retrogrades, it will surface buried feelings or unresolved family dialogues that may need to be addressed. The fourth house link may also cause some reorganization or reconsideration of your living space, perhaps leading you to declutter, redecorate, or revisit old conversations about moving or settling down. These decisions should be delayed until Mercury turns direct, but the emotional weight or confusion around where home truly is may become more prominent during this phase. The seventh house rulership, on the other hand, brings marriage and committed partnerships into sharp focus. You may find that your current romantic connection is mirroring your own inner child's unmet emotional needs, especially if the relationship has become transactional or distant. If there's been misalignment in expectations, this period may amplify it, but with the intent to heal and correct the course, not necessarily to end things. If you're not in a relationship, this could be a time to reflect on your core emotional expectations from a future partner, and whether you've been clear with yourself about what truly matters to you emotionally, not just mentally. Overlaying all this is Saturn's retrograde in Pisces, currently transiting your first house of self, identity, and physical presence. This is an incredibly potent time for inner restructuring. You are being asked to reevaluate how you present yourself to the world, how you take responsibility for your emotional responses, and how you define your personal boundaries. With Saturn in your own sign and Mercury retrograde in the fifth, the push to mature emotionally while reconnecting to childlike joy is unmistakable. Saturn wants structure. Mercury wants revision. Together, they are teaching you that in order to experience real emotional and creative freedom, you must first understand your emotional boundaries, speak with authenticity, and release outdated emotional narratives. Once Mercury turns direct on August 11th, you may find that many of the internal questions and emotional uncertainties begin to ease. The clarity you've been seeking around your romantic life, creative projects, emotional fulfillment, and even home matters will begin to surface organically. You'll likely come out of this phase with a renewed connection to your own emotional intelligence, more mindful communication habits, and a clearer sense of what you want to nurture in your life, be it a relationship, a piece of art, or your inner child. Overall, for Pisces individuals, this Mercury retrograde is a journey inward through the lens of the heart. It's not just about revisiting the past or dealing with technological errors. It's about realigning your emotional compass. As Mercury moves backward through your fifth house in Cancer, and Saturn reshapes your sense of self in Pisces, you are being called to heal what was overlooked emotionally, refine how you express your inner world, and create space for love and creativity that is rooted in truth, not fantasy. As we conclude this episode, please remember that these insights are based on Sidereal or Vedic Astrology, which accounts for the approximately 24-degree difference from the tropical zodiac. Individual predictions may vary, as every birth chart is unique. The influence of dasha periods and natal planetary placements can shape transits differently, both positively and negatively. It's essential to consider your own birth chart when applying these general predictions to your personal circumstances. If you'd like personalized predictions or have questions about your astrological chart, feel free to reach out to us. Stay tuned for more astrological updates. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful astrology content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to sharing more astrological wisdom with you in the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining bright.